Well, I never thought I'd take my clothes off in front of strangers. I know. This all started when I bought a burlesque bootcamp class on a complete whim. That one impulse buy turned me into an accidental burlesque dancer for 10 years. Not exactly the long-term career plan I had, but here's what I didn't expect. Taking my clothes off would teach me the most important lesson about authentic connection that changed everything. You know the moment when you're about to do something absolutely terrifying? Time just slows down. That's exactly how I felt backstage before my first burlesque troupe performance. There I was, adjusting my pink Santa suit, fluffing my feather boa, thinking, what have I gotten myself into? As the MC announced our name, I took a deep breath and I stepped into the lights. Now those lights were blazing hot, but our costumes sparkled and the crowd was buzzing with anticipation. As Santa Baby started pumping through the speakers, I kept praying, please, please, please let this double-sided tape hold. Thankfully, it did. By the time we struck our final pose, the crowd went wild. Walking off stage, I was literally buzzing. I just felt the most powerful connection in my life, and I hadn't even said a word. Now, the audience didn't care that we didn't have perfect bodies. They cared about real people sharing a real moment. That's when I knew that's what I wanted from all my communication, whether in burlesque or in business. So, fast forward 3 months. I'm seated front row at a higher education conference, genuinely excited about workforce development. I know, it's sexy, right? Notebook open, pen at the ready, total nerd mode activated. Within minutes, I could feel myself slipping into unconsciousness. The speaker was completely flat. Now picture someone reading their grocery list to you. Now add bullet points, endless bullet points. And those charts and graphs where you're squinting at the legend and you still have no idea what you're looking at, he had like 20 of those. 7 minutes in, 43 to go. I'm trapped in the front row, no easy escape. So my mind starts wondering, what should I make for dinner tonight? Do I have milk at home? You know what, let's just order in. Anything but what was happening on stage. And I wasn't alone. If you could see thought bubbles above people's heads, they would all be groaning. When is this going to end? The most painful part wasn't the boredom. It was the wasted opportunity. The speaker had knowledge that could have changed the way we worked, but he buried it under so many bullet points and jargon, I couldn't remember a thing he said. When the polite applause came, thank you, sweet Jesus, it hit me. How many presentations had I sat through just like this? How many had I given just like this? That contrast floored me. I just created the most electric connection without words, and here was someone failing to connect using thousands of them. One made time disappear, the other made every second drag. That gap, that disconnect became my obsession. That conference was a turning point. I started thinking, boy, I could never make anybody suffer through that again. I made it my mission. So I started thinking, trapped in PowerPoint purgatory, I would never subject boredom on another human being. So I started studying what made certain speakers magnetic. At conferences, I'd follow speakers who kept people engaged. They barely used bullet points. Instead, they told stories that made their data mean something. And the neuroscience fascinated me. When we see bullet points and hear raw data, only the language processing parts of our brain activate. But stories, everything lights up. Sensory cortex, motor cortex, emotional centers. We don't just process stories, we experience them. Our brains are like sophisticated gossip machines, craving drama, not data. We want the Netflix series, y'all, not the encyclopedia entry. My true test came training NYPD officers in crisis communication. Now talk about a tough crowd. Hardened professionals, eyes narrowed, silently thinking, what could you possibly teach us when you haven't walked a day in our shoes? My old approach would have been drowning them in research and models. Instead, I focused on one thing, getting home safely to their loved ones. I showed them how communication could prevent escalation to force. Talk down before the takedown became the mantra. And the shift was immediate. Arms uncrossed, they leaned in, started taking notes. I found the one thing about human connection that worked everywhere. What I learned shattered every belief I had about professional communication. We've been sold this myth that professional means formal, serious, personality-free. That myth is costing us in yawns per minute. Here's the truth. Powerful communication happens when we break patterns and create authentic connection through stories. Being boring isn't professional. It's just a bad habit we've normalized. We've been taught that credibility comes from hiding behind jargon. Like we agreed that success meant putting people to sleep. Our brains crave stories and surprises. When something unexpected breaks our mental autopilot, a pattern interrupts, our attention centers light up. When information comes wrapped in story, our brains treat it as lived experience, not just facts. Now, this isn't choosing fun over professionalism. True professionalism means respecting people enough to make your message clear, memorable, and meaningful. Thank you. Turns out, respect doesn't require boring people into submission. I've seen this transform hundreds of professionals I've coached. Engineers who couldn't translate technical concepts, executives whose initiatives were dying in presentations, educators whose knowledge wasn't transferring over to students. After implementing these techniques, 92% saw major improvement and engagement. The other 8%, still married to their bullet points. But you can't save everyone. So here's my challenge to you. Break the pattern in your very next presentation. Toss that first slide of bullet points. Replace it with a shocking statistic, a provocative question, or a brief story that shows you're human. No, you don't have to strip, but do let people see the real person behind the title. We all have important messages that deserve to be heard. Whether you're sharing research, pitching ideas, or transferring skills, the human connection is just as important as your content. Picture workplaces where ideas flow because people feel heard. Meetings where people aren't mentally planning their vacation. This isn't just about better presentations. It's about bringing humanity back to professional spaces. You are leading a rebellion against boredom, one presentation at a time. Plus, you're saving people from death by PowerPoint, which has to count for some good karma. In a world drowning in information overload, it's those moments of true connection that break through. Every time you choose connection over convention, you create space for communication that sparks innovation and collaboration. It turns out the best presentations and the best burlesque performances share the same secret. It's not about what you take off. It's about what you reveal. Thank you. Thank you.